All right, so I think Renegades could be a good team, but it's not gonna be easy, is how I would describe it. This team has the pieces, they have a ton of really strong players on this squad, but you don't know how they're gonna mesh up. They may not be really high on everyone's radar, but that might allow them to kind of slip right on through and have a better season than people are expecting.
Now, Renegades roster is one that I think has been the biggest talk of the town for a lot of people, mainly because it's all over the place.
The Renegades should be interesting, at the very least. I mean, so many storylines to talk about with this team. Where to begin?
All right, so let's talk about Barracuda then, Smite's golden boy, so to speak. He can feel like the face of the league sometimes. That's how popular he is, and it's all for good reason. I mean, John Salter is not just one of the better players that we have, but he's just a cool dude to sort of be around. It's hard not to root for him, no matter what team he ends up on.
Barracuda probably the biggest name on this team, but also someone that really struggled in Season 6. Performances on his last roster, Space Station Gaming, did not go as planned at all.
Barra last year, I don't have to be the first or the last person to tell you that is not where Barracuda wants to be at this point in his career. 10th place is an unacceptable finish for someone who's as good as John Salter, but I wonder what it's gonna do to his confidence level. I mean, you listen to the interviews that he would give before games and after games, and you could tell that placing really did affect him.
Previous years, Barry's always been on a #1 favored team, a favorite to win the tournament, a favorite to go on and win Worlds. Well, not this year. This is a team that everyone's going to expect to probably struggle a little bit. So maybe the pressure could be off him for the first time ever, and we'll see how he ends up making that work for himself.
Barracuda is experienced. You don't have to worry about Barra costing you games or making those crazy mistakes or anything like that, stepping too far out of line. He's gonna be making almost all of the right decisions, and he's got tons of high-end potential. He doesn't need much of a lead. He doesn't even need much space to operate with in team fights before suddenly he's trading 2 for 1, before suddenly your team is out to an advantage, because Barracuda is the kind of person that'll land his shots and put your team in the right spot.
All that being said, I still think that Barracuda has the talent and decision-making to be on a world championship quality team.
What's on the Jake 408 does the thing and even goes in for the double.
What can I say about Awesome Jake 408? Well, honestly, there's not much to say in terms of experience and whether he can really do this. We'll get to find out. That's going to be the fun and exciting part of this.
All right, so I know Awesome Jake is not, a big SPL name or anything like that, but I'm still excited to see this guy play. For one, he's just a ranked monster. My dude grinds some Smite, so you know that he's gonna come in with plenty of mechanical skill. For me, the only real question mark I have for Awesome Jake is he gonna get nervous under the bright lights?
My man knows how to hold W and never let it go, ever. It doesn't matter if he's waiting for his 14th respawn, he's holding W. And I know that all the energy around Jake's entrance into the SPL has a negative connotation to it. And I don't think that's really that fair to him.
In the SPL, if you get a bit too aggressive too often or you try and make crazy plays, you will get punished a lot heavier than you will in your normal ranked and casual games. So I'm a little bit concerned for Awesome Jake in that sense. But at the same time, the fun-loving people that you see on your screen, these pro players that may stream, I think when it gets into the SPL and we're focused and dialed into the professional play of games, I think you'll probably see a step up from what Awesome Jake has been doing on the streams. At least I hope so.
Pick up a kill, but it's Veneno that's causing the most problems for everybody now.
I know it's hard to say this about someone who has a world's MVP, but I still think Veneno is underrated, because a lot of the times we talk about Veneno as a role player, a fill player. I don't know, that term has such a negative connotation to it, but I think he exemplifies that in all the best ways.
The only problem I see with this roster this year is a lack of experience from a lot of the players. And Veneno, who's won a world championship, may have to step up into a bit more of a leadership role here to help some of the younger members of the team really start to find their ground background in the pro league and the pro level of play in terms of helping with communication and what the right calls are going to be. And also in just a sort of direction and a backbone of this team that they're going to have to rely on in the mid lane.
This is his time. I don't think that when I look at this Renegades roster, Ven needs to be a focal point for this team. He cannot be that, oh, I'll play whatever we need. Don't worry about me. Yo, come take my mid wave. You know, it's no problem. No, dude. Kick Jake to the curb. Tell him to go get purple XP. Lasbro can farm backs. Solo your mid waves. Get big and carry games. That's what this team needs Veneno to do. They need someone to take pressure off of Barracuda, and I think Ven can do it. It's just never been what's been asked of him.
I'm excited to see how Veneno does in the mid lane, mainly because we've not really seen a meta where the mid laners get left alone a lot. And there is a bit of a chance with the new Season 7 meta coming through that mid laners will have a bit more farm, a bit more control about being able to rotate around the map. And I want to see if Veneno can make that work for himself.
I expect Veneno to be able to play well on this team. The only thing is, I think they're going to need a little bit more from him than just the role player or just that fill player. Veneno's got that. We saw that with his World's MVP performance. It's just a question of how consistently can he do that for him this year. But again, I'm high on Veneno. I think he's got a good chance to look good this year.
But Lasbro was waiting on the side and knocks up two heroines.
Lasbro finally, towards the end of Season 6, got back to jungle and looked to be improving very, very rapidly in that role. And I think that that improvement is going to need to continue. I think that even when he was playing at his best last year in the jungle, that wasn't enough to propel a team like Renegades to the top of the leaderboards. He's gonna need to continue to improve.
There was a ton of hype around Lasbro coming into Season 6, and I was a part of it, right? And Season 5, in the SML, Lasbro looked dominant. He looked great. He was one of those players you thought his play style fit and would work perfectly when he came over into the SPL. But he spent a little bit of time in mid. That didn't quite work for him. He was clearly out of sorts. That wasn't his main role. And then even when he did switch back over to jungle, he wasn't on the best team, and it felt like he never really got a chance to establish a rhythm. I think there's a chance all that could change for Lasbro here in Season 7.
Now, if Lasbro's jungle in Season 7, I want to see how he ends up working with the rest of the team. He's got a bunch of players around him that he's not actually teamed with before, so he's going to have to learn communication of their strengths and weaknesses for lane ganking, for team fights, and what kind of style of play he's going to be expected to play for this roster to make them be successful. He really needs to just be good at taking direction more than anyone to see what he can get done.
He's going to need to very quickly ramp up with Baron Veneno's help, because they're going to need him to be one of the best junglers in the league. If this team is going to break through that middle of the road and try and get in that top 3 or 4, they're going to really need Lasbro to be a star player.
I'd expect Lasbro to come out of the gates hot this year. I think that he is an energetic guy who's going to want to ride momentum early on. I think that he can pair pretty well in the 3v3 with Jake and Veneno. I think that could be a pretty explosive mid 3v3 for the Renegades. And I'm looking for Lasbro to continue to expand the God pool a little bit, to continue to get a little bit more consistency, and let the confidence grow for him this year. And I think Renegades will be A-okay if that happens.
Ulting inside the tower. One shot, one kill. SoloOrTroll kills Variety and the first responders.
SoloOrTroll finally got a shot at the SPL in Season 6. Granted, it was halfway through, but we did get to really see how he matched up against some of the other solo lane players in the league. And for my liking, I think SoloOrTroll is probably the real deal.
We don't do awards like Rookie of the Year, but if we did, I think SoloOrTroll would probably get it, right? I mean, he subs in for Splice in Phase 1 when they really needed him, and he looked a bit shaky there. He just needed a little bit more time. That became clear in Phase 2 when he really started to play well for this team.
He came in, subbed for Splice, played great, went back to the minor league, played great, came back to SPL, continued to play great. I don't think you have a whole lot of room to question this guy and his ability right now. But the one reservation that I have is we've seen great rookie seasons before.
With only a limited time, we've seen SoloOrTroll in the Pro League in Season 6. I think it's it's safe to say that he's got room for improvement, but the direction he was going in was fantastic already. He really showed that he has the ability to take on other solo laners and give as good as he gets, and also make a really good transition to the teamfight stage to make sure he's helping his team out as the game goes on. Laning phase, relatively solid, no real mistakes there, and just plays the matchup well. Teamfight stage, look for him to be a bit more of a focal point this year, trying to lead the team from the front. They're gonna need it because they're gonna have amateur support coming into the action.
He's gotten more hours under his belt than just about anybody else because he just grinds at the highest level all the time. So I'm hoping that he can build on that breakout performance he had in Season 6 here in Season 7. The solo lane pool was stacked in Season 6. I think it's the same thing here. And SoloOrTroll is going to have to really make sure he continues to perform at that level if this Renegades team is going to have a chance of winning.
I think that there's no reason to count this team out. I think that SoloOrTroll proved last year that he is capable of being a true carry on a team. I think Barracuda still has a lot of gas in the tank. I think that Veneno doesn't get enough credit for what he does for a roster. I think that mechanically, Jake is good enough to compete.
Community vibe for this team so far is great. We like most of these people, they're fun-loving people, but are they good enough for the Pro League as a team? We get to really see that in action. From my experience, some of the best teams that Smite has ever really had are the ones that get along personality-wise behind the scenes as well as on screen. There's a chance this team could surprise a lot of people and do well, but I think realistically, it's going to be a long learning process.
It's going to depend so much on how this team gels because every team is mechanically good. What you really need is a team that can get ahead of the meta, that can communicate well, that can bounce back from losses and still make sure that they're improving. Those are the things that we don't know if this Renegades team can do yet. We won't know until we start to see in Season 7.